Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
Today is our unit on animals, and we're going to talk about wild animals that are actually pretty close to you right in the city. We're talking about feral cats or wild cats that used to be, or they used to belong to someone and they kind of let them go, so now they're kind of running around out there.
Oh, they're abandoned.
Abandoned cats, you could also call them stray cats.
Stray cats.
You could use that term to apply to dogs as well. Wild dogs or stray dogs. But we're talking about something called TNR, where they take these stray animals, they neuter them, and then they return them to the natural environment of the city.
You mean they let them go again?
They let them go. They could sell them, I suppose, to some kind of, slaughterhouse, and, they could probably cook them up and make cat meat sandwiches for everybody.
This is happening in Taiwan?
Yes, indeed. I think it's happening in all sorts of places.
Oh,
It's
I can't
just
see that.
one such project that is trying to control the wild animals. Of course, here in Taipei at least, there are quite a few stray cats wandering around all over the place.
More stray cats than stray dogs.
That's right.
Yeah.
When I first came to Taiwan, it seemed like it was the opposite.
It was the opposite a long time ago because I was here too, and there were a lot of skinny, starving stray dogs.
With bad skin, too, like they were missing all their fur or something.
Like they got into a bad fight. I don't know.
So they've gotten that under control, but it seems the cats are another matter. So let's find out what's going on here. Let's find out what this Trap, Neuter, Return program, or TNR for short, is. Let's listen in now. Day after day, night after night, a feral cat roams the streets, ducking through alleys in search of food. It isn't the only one of its kind, there being hundreds of similar cats in the area. These wild cats will mate, and more of their offspring will find themselves on the streets too. There is a solution, though: Trap, Neuter, Return, or TNR. True to its name, the program endorses trapping feral cats, neutering them, and then returning them to the outdoors. If for some reason the cat's home is deemed unsafe, the cat could be placed in a farmyard home. TNR is carried out in order to maintain lower populations of feral cats that would otherwise explode in numbers. The program includes the added benefit of giving a health checkup to feral cats after they are caught. What's more, spaying or neutering a cat increases their life expectancy since they become less vulnerable to certain cancers. After being released, the feral cats are then often fed by a caretaker in what is known as a cat colony. Like anything in life, though, with the good comes the bad. Some argue that cat colonies don't necessarily reduce feral cat populations. That's because the cat food put out in the colony attracts other cats, which gives them an opportunity to reproduce. In addition, irresponsible owners might decide to abandon their cats at the colony. Critics say that feral cats should be taken into homes if possible, instead of being left in an open colony. If caring for the cats indoors is impossible, then it's better to take them to an enclosed space away from other animals. While no solution is perfect, Trap, Neuter, Return is definitely one of the best methods for keeping wild cats happy and healthy.
Okay, let's look at the title, guys. Trap, Neuter, Return. A series of actions that have been put together to talk about a new program that we're going to explain in this particular program. If you trap an animal, you catch it. Sometimes people use a cage to catch something. You trap it. If you neuter an animal, you perform some sort of operation or surgery on that animal so they're no longer able to have babies, whatever animal they are. You could say you're making them sterile or you're sterilizing them. So they neuter the cat and then they return that cat out again, out to the streets. I love that we're calling these cats feral cats or feral cats. You can pronounce it either way. Because what we usually call these cats is just stray cats.
Right. It kind of means the same thing, but feral, I guess, is more of the scientific term.
Yes.
So this, again, is referring to animals that are living wild, but especially after they have escaped or because someone just let them go. They didn't want to take care of them anymore. They are no longer a house cat or a domestic cat or a pet, right?
A pet,
they're just out there running wild. Yeah. And so we're trying to offer them a better life. Now, here's the first paragraph. It kind of describes the life of a feral cat. Day after day, night after night, a feral cat roams the streets, ducking through alleys in search of food. Duck here usually is a kind of animal. Whack, 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 whack. They fly south for the winter and stuff like that. And, of course, they got Beijing Kaoya or Beijing, what is it, fried duck or roasted duck or whatever it is.
Beijing duck.
Beijing duck, I guess we don't translate the shao there in English. But in any case here, duck is being used as a verb. Usually it means you kind of lower your body because something's coming at you. Like maybe somebody just threw a rock at you. Duck! Get down! So the rock doesn't hit you. In this case, though, it kind of means they're sneaking through the alleys. They're trying not to be seen. They're looking for food.
Oh, yeah. We have these kind of cats in my neighborhood that this old lady feeds every morning very early while I'm exercising. Now, it says it isn't the only one of its kind. There being hundreds of similar cats in the area. You'll notice that this particular article starts out like many of our articles do. A technique of good writing is to kind of set the stage or paint the picture of what you're talking about in the article. And that's what this writer does too. He's kind of describing this feral cat roaming the streets looking for food. Those poor little cats.
How pitiful. So it's looking for food. And again, it's not the only one. There are hundreds of them around, and these wild cats will mate, and more of their offspring will find themselves on the streets too.
Yep.
That does seem to be what is happening here. With the lady in your neighborhood, she probably has a good heart. She thinks she's helping out, but actually what she's doing is she's probably making the problem worse because these cats will mate. Mate here could be a noun, your mate, your partner in life, but in this case, it's a verb. That means they get together, they listen to soft music, and they have Italian dinner with wine and stuff like that.
Cats?
Sure, why not? And they kind of purr and stuff like that. And, they get together and they make little kitties. And, the kitties are their offspring. Offspring, of course, are the children of, people or cats or whatever. That is the result of the mating ritual.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a solution for this because once they mate, we have even more little feral cats running the streets or roaming the streets. There's a solution, and it's called the Trap, Neuter, Return, or TNR. It's some sort of program that someone's put together. So it says, true to its name, or just like the name says, the program endorses trapping feral cats, neutering them, and then returning them to the outdoors where they found them originally. If you endorse something, you support it. Usually you declare your approval for something publicly. For example, during a presidential election, you'll often have important people say, well, I support this candidate. What they're doing is they're endorsing that person or saying, I approve of them. You should listen to me. What you're saying is you're just recommending something.
Absolutely. So, of course, you will hear people endorsing the various candidates in local elections. Local business leaders and religious leaders come out and say who they want to endorse for the election. So, yes, indeed, this program endorses or promotes or makes us want to do this, trapping those feral cats and then neutering them and then returning them to the outdoors. And if, for some reason, the cat's home is deemed unsafe, the cat could be placed in a farmyard home. Okay, so most of the times they take the cats in, they catch them, maybe the animal control unit or whatever, the dog catcher or the animal catcher or whatever, they take them. I don't know, do they have civic veterinarians or something? Or do they take them to local veterinarians?
I don't know. I think they probably work for the government, don't they?
Could be. Or maybe some of these veterinarians are volunteer.
Maybe.
But in any case, they neuter the cat. They give them some kind of surgery so that the cat can no longer reproduce and return them. And, well, if they return them to an area that is unsafe, maybe it's a construction site, or recently there have been a whole bunch of stray dogs sighted that might attack those cats or something like that.
Yeah, they'd kill those cats.
It could be, right? Or maybe some hunters who like to hunt cats or whatever. They're around somewhere,
Do they eat cats anywhere?
No, but I'm saying that people who want to go to Africa and hunt lions probably have to settle for something less, ideal.
Oh, so they start out small with the cat. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't think it's actually legal to hunt cats here. I'm joking, of course.
It's not.
But in any case, if they deem this area unsafe, then they might go go to a farmyard home. Deem here is a verb. It just means to regard or consider something as being a certain way or a certain case.
So it really just means you think of it that way, if you consider it that way, so it's considered or thought of as unsafe. The cat could also be placed in a farmyard home. Ooh, I bet the cat would like that. Lots of chickens to chase around. Cats like to do that. Now, TNR, the program, is carried out in order to maintain lower populations of feral cats that would otherwise explode in numbers. We've seen that happen before. If you carry something out, it means you execute it. You go ahead and make sure that program runs. You're running something. So they're going to carry out or continue doing this. What's their goal or their proposed goal, I guess, is to maintain lower populations of these feral cats or stray cats. If you maintain something, you keep it as it is, I guess. You could say in order to maintain good health, you should go and get a health checkup every year or so. A lot of guys really care about their cars, and so they like to maintain them by getting their oil changed frequently and washing it and polishing it, things like that. So you just keep something in its current state or condition by maintaining something.
That's right. So they want to keep them at lower populations, and those populations or numbers of cats in different areas would otherwise explode in numbers. So otherwise here means if the first case is not true, then this is the result. Okay, so if they cannot maintain those lower populations, then therefore or otherwise they would explode in numbers. The population of those cats would increase, as is what's happening in my neighborhood, because all these people keep feeding them, and so cats from outside come over, and they're always fighting and waking us up at about 2 in the morning, and usually I try to chase them away by I try to throw water balloons at them. The water balloons won't hurt them, but they will scare them, and they will run away and stop yelling. In any case, we're going to continue talking about this in just a couple of seconds, but right now we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hello everyone, my name is Tina. 我们今天要谈到的一个计划叫做 TNR， 代表的呢就是 Trap, Neuter and Return， 也就是呢可以把这些野猫呢把它们抓起来绝育再放回去。我们首先来看到第一个空格的句子提到 It isn't the only one of its kind.There, blank one, hundreds of similar cats in the area. 在这里提到呢，在这里的区域有上百只跟这只野猫一样的猫在流荡着。我们来看一下，第一题就是要考考同学对句型结构的概念。要注意的是，在英文里面，一个句子只能有一个动词，所以在一个句子当中，真正的主词是 it， 动词是is， 用否定的形态来表达，而后面呢则是用逗号来连接另外一个句子，但是因为没有连接词，又有各自不一样的主词，所以我们可以使用的就是独立分词构句，也就是有自己的主词，但是把动词变成分词的形式来表达。在这里讲到，在这个区域当中有数百计类似的野猫，所以搭配文意的有，我们就用 being， 所以正确答案就选 B 选项。第二个空格在这一句当中提到 TNR is carried out in order to maintain lower populations of feral cats that would otherwise blank two in numbers. 其实要实行这样子的计划呢，就是希望能够维持较低的这个弃猫的数目，否则它们的数量会怎么样呢？搭配文意我们来看一下第二题的 A 选项 explode 爆炸， B diminish 减少， C emerge 浮现， D disturb打扰。如果没有控制的话，野猫的数字一定会激增的，所以搭配文意第二题我们答案就选择 A explode。
We're going to take a short break. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Okay, let's continue with our lesson. Again, we've got this program that is trying to maintain the populations of feral cats so they don't increase, so those populations do not explode in numbers. And the program includes the added benefit of giving a health checkup to feral cats after they are caught. I've got to hand it to the veterinarians for doing this, because if they capture those feral cats, they're not going to want to be captured, and they're going to be very uncooperative, and they're probably going to try to scratch you and stuff like that. So my hat goes off to those veterinarians for doing this. And yes, they not only neuter those cats, but they also give them a health checkup. They check the cat's temperature, maybe give them a blood test or a urine, take a urine sample or something like that. And they want to make sure those cats don't have nasty diseases that could harm them or spread to other cats or maybe even people.
Oh, that's a good thing. Now, if you spay a cat or spay an animal, it's the same as saying you're neutering them. You make sure they can't have little babies in the future. And that kind of keeps the population under control. The numbers don't get out of whack or get out of control, because if you have a lot of cats running around, it's a mess, and it can be quite noisy if you live in Tom's neighborhood. So when you talk about something increasing or decreasing someone's life expectancy, it means they've got something that will probably either shorten or lengthen their lives. So if you have bad eating habits, you're probably decreasing your life expectancy. You probably aren't going to last as long as some of your friends who exercise and eat healthy food. So they're trying to make sure these cats are in good shape so that they don't hurt other cats or people even, and become less vulnerable to certain cancers. Oh, well, that's a good thing. A lot of cats actually die of cancer. We had a cat who died of cancer.
Oh, no.
If you're vulnerable, guys, it just means it's very easy to hurt you physically or emotionally. We often talk about vulnerable populations of children and older people, senior citizens. They're more vulnerable.
Exactly. So, yes, indeed, these cats can get certain types of cancers.
Yeah.
Cancer here is being used as a count noun because we're talking about different kinds of cancer: liver cancer, stomach cancer, lung cancer, etc. And after being released, the feral cats are then often fed by a caretaker in what is known as a cat colony. Colony usually refers to some kind of part of the world that is controlled by a country from another place. Like, I guess you could say Taiwan was a colony of Japan for 50 years in the early part of the 20th century. And then, of course, England and France and all those countries had colonies in South America and Africa and other parts of the world. But here, we're referring to a specific place for cats. I guess they're just calling it a cat colony, a special kind of shelter for cats.
It's kind of a cat neighborhood, you could say. So these cats all get together and hang out. A caretaker is just somebody who feeds them, watches them, makes sure they're okay. Now, like anything in life, though, with the good comes the bad. Oh, this is a phrase we use a lot, actually, in America. You got to take the good with the bad. Not every situation you get into is 100% wonderful. Even if you get a really great job, there will be some parts of it that you won't like. That's where the expression comes from. Everything has its good parts and its bad parts. Well, some argue, they say that this is true, that cat colonies don't necessarily reduce these feral cat populations, which makes sense because if you've got a bunch of cats hanging out, and most of them perhaps are neutered, but you're going to get other cats who find them because, they kind of get together occasionally. You might get some cats making their way there for the food at the very least, and they might not be neutered and they could have babies.
Yeah, it attracts other cats. That's what it says here. It's because the cat food put out in the colony attracts other cats. They come from other areas. Hey, there's some food over there. Let's go check it out. And, of course, that will give them an opportunity to reproduce. Reproduce here is a verb. It just means to have babies. We're basically copying ourselves when we have babies, so we are reproducing. And in addition, we're also irresponsible owners might decide to abandon their cats at the colony.
Terrible.
So, yes, if you've been raising a little kitten, oh, it's so cute when you brought it home for your kids, but now it's like 10 years old. The kids have graduated from high school, and you don't want to take care of that cat anymore. It's no longer cute. It's just costing you money with food and kitty litter and stuff like that. So I'm just going to let him go. Here you go. Go out there and run around and chase as many rats as you want.
That's terrible. If you're irresponsible, you're somebody who doesn't accept responsibility for something. You're not doing your duty like you should. So these irresponsible owners, by being irresponsible, they're abandoning or turning their back on these cats, and it's their duty to feed and take care of the cats. I know families growing up that would take their cat out in their car and drive far, far away from their home and then put the cat outside and then get back in the car and drive off.
Yeah,
so
actually, a friend of my mother lived on a farm in the country outside of town, and she said she got sick and tired of people dropping off stray cats onto their property. So one day she took about 20 or 30 of those cats and drove the pickup truck into town and let them all go in the city square. So, yeah, farmers don't necessarily want those cats out there, folks. No. But in any case here, yes, feral cats should be taken into homes if possible. That's what the critics say.
We should probably talk about what abandon means.
Oh, right, yeah, we got to back up.
We've been talking about cats being abandoned.
Abandoning, right. Yeah. So that's the verb here. It just means you just let something go and you no longer are responsible for it.
But you should be.
You should be, right.
Yeah.
Sometimes parents abandon their children, for example, and the children become orphans. As a result, of course, there are different ways that children become orphans.
Or maybe some house. I've seen houses that have been abandoned. Maybe they're in really bad disrepair. They really need a lot of work on them to be livable. And people just walk away from them. Or they owe too much money on it and they walk away.
Could be. Or abandoned cars parked in areas that don't charge for parking. You can tell that they've been there for a long time because of all the dust on those cars. They're abandoned cars. But in any case, yes, critics say here in the next sentence that feral cats should be taken into homes if possible.
Yeah.
That means people should adopt them and have them as their pets instead of being left in an open colony. And if caring for the cats indoors is impossible, then it's better to take them to an enclosed space away from other animals.
True.
Enclosed means it is not outdoors, it is not open, it is surrounded or closed off by walls or a roof or something like that. And this way they don't get attacked or bothered by other animals.
Well, the truth of the matter is no solution is perfect. But this trap, neuter, return program is definitely, or for sure, without a doubt, one of the best methods for keeping wild cats happy and healthy. So we'll see how this program works out. It's kind of new, so you're going to have to be on the lookout for these feral or stray cats if you have an increase of them in your neighborhood, or if these cat colonies are actually working. We hope they do.
We hope we can certainly find homes for those sweet, furry little kittens out there. After all, they didn't ask to be stray cats or feral cats. They would like to have a home just like anybody else. And, of course, it's better to give them a home than to do what I suggested earlier in the program.
True. Don't kill your cats, guys.
Don't do that. It's illegal. You probably get in trouble. But in any case, that brings us to the end of our lesson. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
在这一段有提到，这个计划还有一个好处呢，就是弃猫在被捕捉之后会接受健康检查。What's more, spaying or neutering a cat increases their life expectancy, since they become less blank-3 to certain cancers. 其实呢，当我们把这些弃猫的卵巢割除，或者是将它阉割之后呢，反而是可以增加它们的 life expectancy， 也就是寿命。因为如此一来，它们对某些癌症来讲就比较不会怎么样呢？第三题的 A 选项 destructive 破坏性的， B vulnerable 易受伤害的， C suspicious 怀疑的， D. resistant 抗拒的。当他们呢实行了 TNR 之后呢，就比较不容易受到癌症的伤害。所以第三题根据文意，我们标准答案就选择 B 选项。那么在下面一段提到呢，当然有好处也会有坏处咯。第四个空格提到 Some argue that cat colonies don't blank for reduce feral cat populations. 其实也有些人呢，他认为这些猫的 colonies 猫的群落呢怎么样真正降低弃猫的数量。我们来看一下，在这里用 don't 来连接哪一个副词才好呢？ A 选项的 necessarily， 我们讲到 not necessarily 就是不必然不一定怎么样。 B potentially 潜在的。 C additionally 额外的。 D sufficiently 足够的。其实我们想要这么做，就是希望能够降低这些弃猫的数字，但是反对的人就认为有了猫的聚落，不必然的会降低这些猫的数目。所以第4题搭配文意，我们就选择 A 选项的 necessarily。 第5个空格的句子提到 That's because the cat food put out in the colony attracts other cats, which blank 5 them an opportunity to reproduce. 为什么会这样子呢？因为呢，当你把这些食物放在猫聚落的那边，反而会吸引其他的猫只。而在这里呢，逗号 which 这里的 which 代替的就是前面句子所说的内容，这样一来呢，反而呢提供他们能够生产繁殖的一个机会。which 代替的是前面句子所说的内容，它是一个单数的代名词，所以搭配文法句构。第5题标准答案我们就选 C 选项的 gives。 第6个空格提到 Critics say that feral cats should be taken into homes if possible. Blank 6 being left in an open colony. 这些批评家呢，则是觉得这些弃养的猫呢，应该呢，可能的话，把它安置在家中吧，而不是被放在一个呢开放的群落当中。希望能够摆在家里面，而不是这么做。搭配文意。第6题我们可以选择 C 选项的 instead of。 最后一句Blank 7, no resolution is perfect. Trap, neuter, return is definitely one of the best methods for keeping wild cats happy and healthy. 我们常常说到呢，有好就有坏，尽管虽然没有怎样的解决方法是完美的，但是目前看来，这样的计划还是可以让我们的猫只又幸福又快乐，而且还身体健康。搭配文意。第7题我们可以选择 D 选项的 while， 在这里解释成为尽管虽然。以上就是今天的课文讲解，谢谢收听。
Thanks for joining us, folks. We sure hope you learned a lot. And if you have a cat, just make sure it's neutered and take good care of it. We hope your cat doesn't end up in the cat colony. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom. Goodbye.
Bye.